What's up, everybody? So, today we're going to be talking about runes and whatnot. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about today is despair runes. Now, hold up. First off, before we do that, we're going to do something a little bit fun, a little bit off topic. We're going to be leveling up basically these two units up to 6-star with a bunch of dark ghosts just for the hell of it, and because it'll look funny and look cool. So let's go ahead and do this. So I think we have enough. Oh, nope, we don't want to do that. I'm pretty sure we do have enough ghosts for this. Oh my gosh. And then they changed it so now that like if you evolve, it pushes you down all the way to the bottom of the list, which is a little bit annoying. Almost more annoying than pushing you to the top of the list, but I guess it's okay. So, put this in. And we're going to keep going all the way. I think we have enough mana stones for it too. Only two 6-stars. I didn't want to carry it on for further. We're going copper for Guild Wars. I want to use it with Ganymede, and then I need to start leveling up that Amnesty. That Amnesty will be 6-starred by next week, but I need some skill ups first. And then of course I'll be using. I think we're just going to use Ganymede copper type combo. I need to rune both of those units up too. Oh, by the way, just in case you guys were wondering. Ooh, what? Oh, is that everything? Oh wow, I went way too much with the 4-stars. Whoops. Okay, I went too much with. I did 10 too much. Okay, all right, interesting. So we'll do that. Okay, cool. And then we'll do this. Oh, we don't have enough mana stones. All right, quick. Let's sell some stuff. Oh shoot, we need to go. Ooh. A little bit late to the party, Xiaolin, but it's okay. She's here. That was a bunch of fun. There you go. So, lots of ghosts. Really fun. All right, so let's get into the actual video. So, today we're talking about despair runes, basically. So in case you guys don't know what despair runes are, they give you a 25% chance to stun the enemy. It's irresistible. It cannot be resisted. Accuracy and resistance has nothing to do with it. It's just a flat 25% chance. Boom. If it activates, they're stunned. Now, of course, if they have will runes on, then they will resist it. But that is the only exception. Will runes, or if they're immune to that type of stuff, so you can't stun, for example, the Fire Monkey King because he's immune to inability effects. But if they can be stunned, they will. So how are we going to set this up? Well, Despair is a 4-set, so this is one of the important runes. We're going to go through the 4 sets first, and then we're going to go through the 2 sets, and I'm going to split this up in different videos. So with Despair runes, I actually broke it down into basically 4 categories. So the first category is support based. So support I view more towards like healing, or they have a specific type of role and they have an AoE skill. So despair runes specifically, you'll want to make sure you put on an AoE monster, or a monster that's going to be revenging a lot, like the Wind Panda. He can actually be on revenge if you really are interested in that kind of stuff. So then you put on despair runes, like my Praha is on despair. And then, so support based, you're mainly going to be focused on that type of unit. Now, the main stats are HP and defense, of course, and on top of that, speed. Now, depending on the type of unit, the speed might have to be greater than these other stats or less than. So for like Praha, she needs a ton of speed. So she needs units with at least 15 to 20 speed, or more than that. You know, she needs just an absolute ton of speed. Whereas I go down to more like Brienne, who I have in storage at the minute. But Brienne, the Wind Death Knight, he doesn't need as much speed, and I do actually put him as a support unit, and if I put him on Despair Runes, which I do have him on, then I focus more on having him on decent speed, but harder on the HP and harder on the defense. A good example of this with the same thing is Sekhmet. If you put her on, you know, Despair Runes and you don't try to make her super fast, then having a ton of HP and a ton of defense, since her base stats are really good, is actually pretty essential. So if you do focus that, and your unit that you're building it with also has some type of debuff to put on, like Brienne has AoE attack break, then you're also going to want some accuracy. Now, accuracy is completely up to what the monster's kit is. So for like Praha, for example, having good accuracy on Praha is a good idea because she has buff removal. Whereas it's something that has nothing to do with landing a debuff and it's just extra, like say Amir, then maybe you don't have to focus on accuracy so much. Now Amir's completely in a different class. That's it. We'll talk about it in a bit. So the next one that I consider a class is speed. So believe it or not, speedy despair runes is actually a thing now. It's really prevalent in Orion and as well as Praha, but mainly like Orion type units. And now this is trying to get the fastest possible speed out of a rune. Like how with Swift runes you would go with the fastest possible Bernard that you can get. Same thing with despair runes. So you just mainly go for speed. That's it. Speed, speed, speed. And then of course you want some HP in there and some defense and some accuracy as well, depending on the unit. Like Orion definitely needs some accuracy. Mine accuracy right here is too low. Then you put on those secondary stats that you want for the specific unit because it is unit dependent. And then that way you can build the fastest despair unit. And it's actually really not that complicated with this specific build because it's just like Swift runes. You just try to get the most out of that speed. Now, if you are going to make a very, very speedy despair type monster, I would definitely suggest it's someone that you want to go first or as often as possible. And I think the only real units that can really pull it off are units like Orion or Draco because they have other abilities that they can use that are really helpful for being fast. And then they have AoE defense break, which is also actually pretty important because you get the despair stuns and you put on some defense break. So the next class I really like to consider is nuker. Now nukers, they're just a big part of the game, you know, and these are mainly units that are high damage AoE monsters. So for example, and I just have most of my Nat 5s out right now. I put all of my monsters inside, so I'm just giving you a few exact examples. You could use it with other Nat 4s and whatnot. So Zyros is the first thing that comes to mind. I have mine on Despair. So it's basically AoE. You could be single target or single skill AoE, like only the third skill, or it could be both of them AoEs, preferably both of them. But it's not as big of a deal if it's just one of them. So then you have it so that you want crit rate, crit damage, attack, and then possibly accuracy depending on the monster, but mainly just crit damage, crit rate, and attack. It's also important to have speed substats as well on there because you're going to need to be speed tuning them to your actual units. So one good early game example is if you're starting to use something like Amir and you decide that you want to put him on Despair since he has double AoE. It'd be good to make sure that you prioritize the attack, the crit damage, and the crit rate and all of that good stuff, but at least give him a little bit of speed so he can go first before everyone else, or at least right after your AoE defense breaker if you use that. Another good example of something that works really well on Despair runes is the Water Homunculus. So the Water Homunculus with all of those AoE skills, he can really do a lot of damage and he can just absolutely tear through things. So I use Despair on Tyrone, I use Despair on Zyros, you can use Despair on Amir if you want to. There's so many different possibilities with nuker Despair runes. And honestly, I really like it if you put it on units that decrease the attack gauge, like Poseidon, or you could even use it on something like Charlotte, or another good example is Julie. Julie actually hits a lot of times, and she just absolutely tears through monsters with her recent buff, and her AoE is just really fun to play around with, and I think Despair runes would be a lot of fun on her. But of course, you want to make sure that you can get those stats. So the last class that I like to put it into is Crowd Control, or CC, and that is mainly just looking for stunning the enemies, freezing the enemies, or putting them to sleep. So if you put them to sleep and it doesn't actually attack them, then you can't actually use Despair runes. So this is one of those big things that you guys need to pay attention about. If you don't attack the enemy, you can't use Despair runes. One example is Ganymede. So I actually have this unit, and I noticed that he doesn't actually attack the enemy on his AoE. So he says, targets skill on max cooldown and sets the attack bar of all enemies to 0. He does not attack them. so he cannot be used with despair runes. Another example is Hathor. She sets all of the enemies to, or she decreases the attack age of all enemies by 75% and then puts them to sleep for 2 turns. She does not touch them, so she can't use despair on this 3rd skill. A 4-star example of someone that does this is Wuchi. Attacks all enemies by playing the magic flute and sets their attack bar to 0, but he actually attacks them. So one thing that you'll want to look for in their skill description is attacks. So attacks all enemies. That way you know that they actually do damage. So that way you can match whether they are good on despair runes. Another example is Praha. Attacks all enemies with an 80% chance, right? So you just got to make sure that you check these things and it says attacks all enemies rather than sets their attack age or whatnot. So you mix these despair runes in with CC based units and you want to look for speed, accuracy, and then you're either going to want to lean more towards nuking type stats like crit damage, crit rate, and attack and whatnot, or you want to go more towards support based stats. So you want to get HP, you want to get defense, and you want to make sure the difference between CC and support is CC is more highly focused on just the crowd control, making sure that they stay down. So a good example of this, even though he's not on despair runes, is my Varad. So Varad, it just has an absolute ton amount of AoE attacks and stuff. So what I would ideally want to use for a CC based Varad is to put him with a ton of accuracy and a ton of speed. So if you guys ever end up using something like, let's give a good example here. A 3-star example that most people actually have and love using, which is Woonhak, lightened or a dark 3-star, which is pretty obtainable. You can use him as high speed as possible. I love to use very fast CC monsters so they get their skills off more often. And then you can use a high accuracy unit. Now, I don't know if a lot of people would be using him on despair runes, but I do know that this is just a good example of the types of stats you would want, which is basically accuracy, speed, and HP. So it basically all boils down to the type of units you're really looking for and where you think they're useful. You need to really go through on that rune and you need to kind of decide in a split-second decision if you really do think that you can use it. So I'll just show you guys right now. I'll go through my despair runes and kind of justify how I would use them, and if I don't really have a unit I can use them for, then I sell them. So this one is already plus 15. I would just rather keep it and put it on a random unit for world boss or just to play around with, because selling it really doesn't really give me that much return as much as I spent into it. This attack one has a ton of crit damage and a good amount of speed. I can always enchant gem crit rate into there. That's a good point also that I forgot to bring up. If you guys don't have a specific stat on a rune, but you have everything else, like you have crit rate, crit damage, attack, yada, 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 but you're missing speed, you can enchant gem that thing in there. And also, don't worry, you can also grindstone a lot of these substats. So crit damage and speed and accuracy. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to keep that for a unit that already has a lot of crit rate. This one, HP, has high accuracy, high speed, and it's an HP percent slot 6, which is pretty hard to come by. It also has a lot of crit rate, so this is a unit that I would want that can CC a lot and do a bit of damage, such as Arena. I wouldn't want this for TOA, because I don't really like crit rate for TOA if I'm going to be using it for a support-based unit, but I can use it in an Arena unit. One example would be the Dark Horus, Amduit. This one, I actually really don't like this, but it's got speed and accuracy. I'm actually going to sell that. I didn't even know that I had that. I should have sold that already. So this one has a lot of attack percent, a lot of speed, a lot of crit damage, or it has crit damage, and then it also has accuracy. So I'm going to keep that for a nuker. Attack, crit rate, accuracy, keep it for a nuker. I can also put speed into there if I don't get speed. So this one has a lot of speed. This is a unit that I would want, or this is a rune that I would want for a unit that's mainly going for a lot of speed. I can go up to 22 speed grindstone with as much, or with the legend grindstone. This one has speed and crit damage. I'm actually going to roll it to see if it goes twice into the same substat. If it goes once into each, then I sell it, because you really do want to get as much substats as possible, like as high substats as possible. I would prefer to get a rune with the largest amount of one specific substat versus one in each and every substat. So 16 speed, 5 HP, and then I got some attack and crit damage and crit rate in there. So what I think I would do here is actually just power this up and use it for a nuker that I would want in maybe Guild Wars or Arena or something like that, so that I can use that HP to keep him alive as well, because we already got attack, crit damage, crit rate, and speed. And after that, anything else is just extra because we got the 4 main substats for a nuking type unit. So then the HP is just extra. This one we got high crit rate, high HP, so I'm just going to keep that just in case there's a unit I can use it on. Another thing to remember, guys, is if you do have substats, really high substats that are just nice to have, like 20% HP percent on one of these types of sets, then it's good to just keep it and see if it becomes useful later on. Speed and crit damage, again, I just want to see if it goes into the same substat twice. Attack percent with crit rate, keep. Speed with a lot of attack percent and accuracy, keep. This one's already plus 15, already plus 15. Defense with a lot of crit rate and some crit damage, and flat defense. A lot of people write off these flat substats. I actually prefer flat substats a lot of the times if I'm trying to like superpower them up. Like if you look at my Zyros, I have flat substats in here. Like look at that attack right there. Where are some other ones? Okay, so just this attack. So this flat attack takes it up 47. So now it's not 1750 attack power. Now it's 1820. You see that? So I like flat stats. Just a good thing to remember. So going back into this, we're going to go over to this right here. So flat defense matches the main stat, which is defense percent, and we got high crit rate, and we got some crit damage in there. So that would be used for a defense-based nuker if I'd ever had one that also did CC AoE capabilities. Attack percent with crit rate and flat attack, awesome. Speed with the possibilities of a lot of attack percent. I actually need to level that up and see if it goes all into attack percent, which would be awesome. Speed, well, that's already plus 15. HP percent with crit rate. This is actually, I think, really close to a sell, but I want to see if it goes a bunch into crit rate and see if I can use it on like HP-based damage AoE nuker. Speed with crit rate. It's a vanilla rune. I just kept that just because I didn't really feel like selling it. It doesn't sell for much. Accuracy with defense and HP percent. This is actually more for a support-based unit. Attack percent with accuracy and HP. This is actually a sell because it doesn't really have any stats that I really like. Attack percent with really high accuracy. This is more like a nuker with high CC capabilities, something that I would really want accuracy on, like a Zyros, for instance. And it also has speed in there. HP percent with crit rate and crit damage. That would be good for HP-based nukes. And then yada, yada, yada. You guys get the picture, right? So then when we get more towards the slot 4s, this is where it actually gets a little bit more technical because it's slot 2, 4, and 6 that really gets technical. So this, oh yeah, I leveled this up just to see if it would go into to speed a lot. 5-star runes can be okay if the substat goes in the same thing over and over and over. So defense with accuracy and speed, that's a support based. Attack percent with 18 speed. This is something I would use more on like a bomber or just a random unit, but I wanted to see how high the speed could go up. So I think this could actually be a broken set rune, mainly because it has a lot of speed. But another thing to keep in mind is if you just get a ton of speed, you don't need to sell it. You can use it on Bernard. So HP percent is already plus 15. Crit damage with speed on it. This is actually a really close sell because it doesn't have crit rate or attack percent. So really close to selling, but it is a 6-star crit damage rune with speed, so I'm going to keep it for now. Crit rate with high crit damage, and of course, it has a lot of the other substats, no flat stats, and it's plus 15 already. I keep it. And then crit damage with HP, flat attack, a lot of flat attack, and then crit rate, and then defense. So then we're going to keep that. So there you go, guys. I hope this kind of cleared things up for you on why you should be keeping certain despair runes and why you should be selling other ones. One of the main indicators of whether you should sell it or not is if it doesn't have the main stats you should be keeping, which of course is for like more support CC units. It's HP, speed, accuracy, and defense. Or if it's a nuker-based one, it's either crit rate, attack, speed, or crit damage. So you want to look for those main stats if they just don't appear and it's like resistance with accuracy. So if it's like resistance, accuracy is the only 2 substats, that's a pretty good indication that you might want to go ahead and sell it. All right, guys, I hope this helped you guys out. Let me know if you guys want me to do more videos like this. It was pretty long, but I think it was pretty fun to do, and hopefully you enjoyed that first 3 minutes of me a bunch of 5-star ghosts. All right, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.